Hello everyone, this is a talking head video and the topic for today is when a buff becomes a nerf for another area. This is important to understand as fixing one thing in a video game can cause another thing to break. Let's get started. We'll start with the evolution of crit chance. When this game started, everyone had a base crit chance and we were happy to crit. Fixe Fatale gave us more than double our base crit chance. But then over time, with the addition of crit potentials, braver add-on skills, the introduction of Slayer as a main class and a subclass as well, Slayer add-on skills, and even introducing Versh as a weapon, Fixe Fatale was nerfed to oblivion. You see, Fixe Fatale works that it takes whatever you would have rolled and delivers it as a crit. But this only applies to the percentage that Fixe Fatale operates on. Let me give you an example, and I'm making up numbers. If you have a crit chance of 10% and Fixe Fatale gives you 20%, you have a total crit chance of 30%. However, only when you roll between an 11 and a 30 are you going to get the benefit of Fixe Fatale. If you roll between a 1 and a 10, you are critting naturally. So it's like not having Fixe Fatale. And if you roll above a 30, you don't crit at all. Fixe Fatale only works when you roll within its range. And what happened was that eventually our crit chance became so high that the gain from Fixe Fatale was pretty low. And so later on, Fixe mods all got buffed. The other big nerf to Fixe Fatale was the fact that Versh existed. You don't need to fight for a crit when a weapon exists that allows you to get a crit. Sure, it's not as powerful as a Termina weapon off Neos. Well, sure. But since now you could crit without any effort, it diminishes the purpose of Fixe Fatale. And so this is an example of when you start off with a buff and over time that buff gets reduced or gets nerfed indirectly. So I have two other examples. The second one is the tech customization for Talis. 100% elemental down factor literally puts Force and Bouncer out of a job. Force is out of a job because there's nothing in the skill tree for Force to increase its chances of proccing an elemental down. This means that since all of that is in the tech customizations for the techs and weapons, that you can have Force as a subclass and you don't deal with any of the baggage that Force is as a main class. The same is true with Bouncer. Bouncer got an indirect nerf because it's best when the boss you're fighting has, believe it or not, even down states. But when you fight Falls, Dark Falls is literally elemental downs. Bujin literally is elemental downs and you need 2 physical downs to cause 1 physical down. So when bosses have uneven down states, that's an automatic nerf to a Bouncer. Because the idea of Bouncer is that when one down state is procced, the Bouncer can use that down state to generate the opposite down state. Since down states are uneven, it makes it so that you might as well have the classes that specialize in elemental downs and leave the Bouncer out of it. But if you have it as a subclass, it works. Finally, a great buff which became a nerf were the additions of the EX Augs. The EX Augs make it so that now we can give up to 3 different abilities to a weapon. This made it so that elemental weapons gained even more power. It also made it so that the game no longer is about getting the highest raw power weapon and max auging it. To put in perspective, I run around Name the City with a 3-star sword. That 3-star sword has 4 LC Augs and 3 X Augs. And I destroy things pretty fast with it. And I even get 4200 battle power, as you see on the top left of this video, from having that equipped. In other words, that's enough to run the toughest content that exists right now. The EX Augs make it so that you no longer need to build the highest raw power weapon. In other words, it's a buff for the lower end weapons, and because it's a buff for the lower end weapons, it is also a nerf to the highest end weapons. If you're bringing up the lower end weapons to be more on par with the higher end weapons, and there's much better gain to do that, and it's cheaper to do that, and it's easier to find a fix of 3 or fix of 5, very easy for a lower end weapon to match up and in some situations beat out the highest end weapon. Especially when the Wingguard weapon's potential is only really great when you actually use a photon blast and get the benefit from it, which means you need to fight a battle that lasts that long. The endgame battles are great, but most of the endgame battles are optional content. So that in itself diminishes what a Wingguard is and does. So those are 3 examples of when buffing one area can become a nerf for another area. And I'm hoping that the same doesn't happen with the Mars weapon system that's coming out later. That's my only concern. But we'll just have to wait and see. Until next time, see you all in the next video.